All right, it's been a while since the movie Deadpool came out. It's been a while since I've actually digested what I saw. It's been a while since I actually have sit down and weigh in the pros and the cons. Now I can give you my review. And keep in mind, guys, right off the bat, I want to say this right now because I know that a lot of fanboys are listening to this. This is just my absolute opinion. You do not have to agree with me. Um, my opinion is just my feeling on the movie. My opinion is just my feeling on what I saw, my overall impression. And I'm going to give you my feeling on, without really spoiling anything, because I really want to get out of that, spoil thing and get into details. I want to keep it spoiler free. But I'm going to give you my impression as a whole about this film. With that being said, let's get with the review. First off, this Deadpool movie, right off the bat, I can tell you, was a breath of fresh air because they did something that I was afraid they wouldn't do because of the way that Hollywood has been marketing films such like this, and even films that is not even comic books films that were once catered to adult audiences now is being marketed towards the younger audiences for anything else just to make money, ruining what was the main purpose of the film, the main fabric. I'll give you a perfect example of RoboCop. RoboCop, in my opinion, is the most violent, very, very close to an X-rated film because X-rated back then, if you don't know, was the generalization of saying this is for adults only, no kids allowed, period. They will not line you in. That's how close RoboCop was. And even with all the editing they have done, it still was tinkering on that line. However, it gave you a raw vision of just how messed up Detroit was in that pretty much time frame in RoboCop universe and why RoboCop exists in the first place. We now come years later, after all the sequels of RoboCop and all the TV movie specials, we come to a rebooted RoboCop where I can safely say it's not a bad movie, but you can clearly felt the grid pretty much almost been erased because one, there wasn't really no feel that this Detroit was battered and bruised. It really must sanitize itself just to cater to an audience that may not even care for a PG-13 RoboCop. And keep in mind, they tried this already with RoboCop 3, and it basically tanked. Terminator. A perfect example. One and two, pretty much hands down, was an adult film. Even though a lot of kids have seen it when I was there, our parents must have took us to see it. Clearly, this was a rated R film, and the grit and the urgency was much more at stake. With those two films alone being an more adult oriented film, than 4 and even 5 have. And I'm talking about Terminator Salvation and Terminator Genesis. They're pretty much a sequel, reboot, whatever you want to call it. The grit wasn't there. The sense of urgency wasn't there. It pretty much was a rinse and repeat of the first two films, which I really didn't really care for. There was really no grit of how brutal this Armageddon world that we were supposed to be dark and gloomy, and we were supposed to see how John Connor rise everybody up to fight these enemies. I'm talking about Salvation, by the way. You didn't feel that, even though a lot of people had mixed feelings with the movie. You didn't feel that grit, and that's largely because it was sanitized to meet an audience, to meet a demographic. Deadpool was another property that probably would have gotten a PG-13 stamp if it wasn't for two things. One, how poorly written Wolverine's movie was, the first one, and two, how they butchered a character, which a lot of people have liked it. I never forget Jeremy John's review. It was one of his first reviews that he had done. I think it was called Movie Man 12. That was his original thing before he actually went to a new channel called Jeremy John's. He pretty much explained why a lot of people hated the way they did the way they did Deadpool, even though they love Ryan Reynolds. So, I mean, Ryan Reynolds really captured what Deadpool was just by his presence alone. And many people couldn't wait to see how he would be in that suit facing Wolverine. Well, they saw Deadpool, just wasn't Deadpool. It was somebody else entirely and given powers he never really had in the comic book. So that was the main thing. The movie was bad, and that and having Deadpool the way it was really ruined it, a film that they actually scheduled to be released 1 year after X-Men Origins Wolverine. It was going to be that and X-Men Origins Magneto, which later on became Magneto and Xavier in X-Men: The First Class. So Deadpool pretty much was hanging around for a while, and then it just died. And then you heard the reason why it's died, and one of the reasons why is they wasn't too sure they can actually adapt it Deadpool into the big screen. In other words, we didn't know how to make it PG-13 because they didn't want an R-rated movie, even though Deadpool would have been perfect for an R-rated film. And for the last 10 years, if you didn't notice that, with the exception of probably Punisher Warzone, which was the only R-rated film that came out in between those times, they really haven't done or made an effort to try and give us more of an adult-oriented movie until Deadpool came along. And a lot of credit has to go with Ryan Reynolds, who wanted to do Deadpool for a long time, who wanted to make this film for a long while. And also, a lot of credit goes to the people behind that teaser, which was promoting "Let's Get This Done." A teaser which was animated, which pretty much got people talking about Deadpool, which we're still talking about for this day, and pretty much opened the eyes to 20th Century Fox saying, okay, we get it. People want to see it. Even though they were still shaky on that situation, they decided, let's have Ryan Reynolds come back. He obviously wants to do it, and let's get this film on the road. There were still questions about this movie. For one, Ryan Reynolds has had a bit of a funk lately when in starring roles, and surprisingly enough, it has to be with a lot of the comic book movies he was in. Blade Trilogy, which is the worst of the three Blade films, was not well received. There was a lot of issues with that. Green Lantern, which I'm gonna tell you right now, I didn't think Green Lantern was bad. I really didn't. I thought Green Lantern, they didn't. I think it would have been better served if they kept him out of planet Earth, and him going through the training, going through the struggles. I think that would have been more of a better story than him, with father issues back on home planet and having self-doubt. But out of all, I was actually into the situation. What hurt this film was the animated suit did not vote well, and when they tried to fix it, it pretty much overwent their budget. Otherwise, I think they would have made their money back if it would have stayed within the budget that they actually originally had. 3D didn't help that movie at all. But overall, I thought Ryan Reynolds, despite all his bad problems, you can see it was the person who was trying. Maybe a little too hard, but trying. This was the one where I can not only say that this movie Deadpool, not only say that he really put his all into it, but I felt that right now, he's the only one who can play Deadpool. If they make a sequel, which is most likely it will after the success of this movie, he has to play Deadpool. There's no other person who can play it. I mean, in terms of AAA movies concerned, he has to play Deadpool because he is Deadpool in my eyes. He really brought this character to life. He was, in my opinion, the reason why I want to see this film. He did not disappoint me. I was laughing at some of the meta he was doing from the beginning end. I liked how they referenced the X-Men and how, if you want to call a spoiler alert, how he only saw 2 X-Men at a time. He basically said, 20th Century Fox must not have enough money to afford any more X-Men. It was actually clever of them, poking fun at the producers by that credits. Hilarious. I love how they did this. It is exactly what I come to expect from a Deadpool movie, and everybody in that theater, including myself, just had a ball just seeing this character on screen doing his work. The origin story of how he got his powers, of course, has been changed. They didn't go too deep into this origin story of how he got kicked out of the military. There was really no reference of X-Men Origin Wolverine in this, which I don't expect it to be, considering how bad that movie is and how much it messed up this character to the point where they had to press the restart button from where we are now. I don't know if the events, because they didn't really mention the events of Days of Future Past, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But what they did reference was some of his previous comic book tenure with DC. We're not actually going into details. I like the fact that he was able to break the fourth wall, and he'd done it in perfect timing. And the ending of this film, which has always been the post credit thing, really did hint to you what to expect in the next Deadpool film once they go into production. And that's something I think a lot of people are going to be happy about. Clearly, this is a film full of meta humor. This is a comedy, action comic film, and it works well with that. So, with that being said, why did I give a heads up saying that this is just my opinion if I liked it what Ryan Reynolds had put into the film? Very simple. Ryan Reynolds is the only thing that I think really held this film together. This film is not well scripted. I mean, I know that I expected it to be, but it was very evident when I actually can predict what was going to happen at the very end of this film. And not going into too many details here, there was just a lot of stuff in this film when I said, wow, this film, if you take away Deadpool's comedy, you take away all the meta humor that goes with it, you take away the reaction he had with the lady from Star Trek or the original, if you take away all that, this film is minimum underwhelming. It becomes a typical mediocre action film. That's what you got. Without that character, I really feel that this film would not be successful. And this is why important how you have to have a good actor who's going to pull himself into roles such as Deadpool. The same thing I felt with Iron Man. Iron Man, to me, the saving grace of the Iron Man film in general was Robert Downey Jr. He played that character perfectly. You take away Robert Downey Jr., the film wouldn't be as good. It probably would have been actually terrible without him. He makes that film. He carries the Iron Man film. Ryan Reynolds carried Deadpool. He pretty much, you're watching Deadpool and pretty much nothing else. I can care less about what was going on with anything else in this film. I can care less about the villain, which was pretty much weak. Yeah, he has Wolverine's powers, big deal. I mean, he still was underwhelming in my opinion. He still wasn't entertaining in my opinion, and he hadn't been in this film long enough to actually consider him as a true threat. I didn't really care about his love interest, even though the whole entire premise of the film, besides getting revenge of the person who made him what he is and trying to turn him back to the normal person he was, but he basically just wanted to take rescue his girl, a girl who fell off the radar for quite a while from this film. The origin story, surprisingly, wasn't as interesting as I wanted it to be. It was an important part to the film, but in all interest, it didn't really bring any depth to me actually caring. I didn't really give a damn about his origin story, really. I cared more about the character Deadpool than mostly anything else in this film. He really was the bifocal of the film. And again, it works twofold for this kind of movie. It can work for the film, but it also works against the film in many, many ways. Because again, you take away Ryan Reynolds' performance, you're looking at an average, mediocre movie. It's pretty much average. It's not underwhelming, overwhelming. It's just average, and that's how I see the film. Now, to many fans, this is just fine. I mean, people, and again, I was enjoying myself sitting down with the crowd, sitting down with all the fans of Deadpool, and just laughing and enjoying the meta humor and enjoying seeing this character finally being realized on the big screen. That's enough for the fans. God bless you. That's great. For regular moviegoers, that may not vote well. Many people will probably want more. Many people who didn't even, especially don't even know who the hell Deadpool is, will probably expect more. And they're basically going to say, well, yeah, he's funny, but what else do you have? And that's the whole thing. The whole entire weight of the Deadpool movie is pretty much being carried in this one character's shoulder. And for the most part, it works fine. But for those who are looking for a more concluding ending, more something to sink their teeth into, that may not be the case. Again, this is just a movie. I'll keep it real. There are certain films that are meant for a certain group of people. Kick-Ass is a perfect example. Not everybody's gonna like Kick-Ass. Some people will enjoy the action and humor and the awareness of what this film is, and that's cool. Some people will consider this a violent film that really, sexualize or predatize children, which a lot of people have said about the Kick-Ass 2 more so than 1. that's fine. This is not for you. This is a film that meant for a certain audience. And Deadpool, maybe just for a certain group of people. Keep in mind, after sitting down and giving my thoughts and actually looking at this, I looked at a certain vibes of certain people. Some people liked the film. Some people liked it, but felt it could have been better. I'm one of the persons that I liked it. I love how Ryan Williams done the film. I think Ryan Williams really is the true saving grace of this film. I want him to play more Deadpool when they start working on the sequel, because I think he brings that character to life. I don't see nobody else playing Deadpool the same way I don't see nobody else playing Wolverine at this point. In the same way, I feel like that nobody's going to play Tony Stark as Iron Man. But like I said before, with some of these characters, their strength sometimes alone sometimes can't carry the whole film down the finish line. And again, this is a not bad, could have been better film. It's a 2.5-star film in my opinion. Don't take the rating system and say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Again, I sat down there and I enjoyed this film for what it was giving me. The meta humor alone was fun, entertaining, and again, the character was fun to watch on the screen. However, there was a lot of things I just simply cannot ignore. The story was weak. The story was weak overall. The story was weak. The rest of the characters, sure, there was some fun moments. Wasn't enough to see around. I didn't really care about the neighbors. Didn't really care about the girlfriend, really. I just really felt they was just in the way in many ways. And like I said, they had an ending that was not exactly what I was hoping to sink my teeth into. The end, like I said, I liked the Ferris Bueller reference in the end. I thought it was actually kind of clever, because it is pretty much where where that meta humor originally was took their humor from, because Ferris Bueller. But other than that, I just felt that was the thing that was holding me back. Again, you take away Deadpool and you move him, what do you really have? In my opinion, you really have just an average movie. That's all it is. But if you add Deadpool in there, he makes that film just just better. And again, if you like Deadpool and you like this movie, that's great. I mean, again, I don't hate this film. There's no way it's gonna be in my worst list. No way it's gonna be bashed, because I thought there was enough here to actually go back again and watch this film just on the comedy and this character alone. I love the way they have done this film, and for the record, I hope. And we're seeing this a lot lately, especially with Netflix. I hope this shows the studios, yes, you can still market a film like this, have it rated R, and people will come to see it. You don't need to sanitize your film just to get a P-13 rating for the sake of trying to get everyone to see your theaters. If you write a good movie or a film that everybody wants to see, and you have a good actor who's dedicated in bringing this character to life, and you have a director who's dedicated to give good direction and great guidance, people will see this film. Word of mouth will always trump any kind of advertisement, bar none. And when people saw this film, guess what? They couldn't stop talking, whether it be on their social networks, or just by word of mouth talking to their friends, or just by basically calling someone on the phone. This film has done well in the box office, and deservedly so. And this is pretty much a lesson to be learned. You need to understand that not every character needs to be geared towards children. You need to understand that not every comic book character is kid friendly. The Punisher, the Blade, Deadpool, even Wolverine, which for rumors, and I'll talk about this more in the Combo Talk 360, should not be geared towards children. Because when you start gearing these characters, which has a violent history and a more complex past, you sanitize that so that way you won't explore that history and the past that made these heroes who they are today, or made them to pretty much snap. And that's just my opinion on that situation. I like to hear your opinion on this movie. I really do. I think this movie is a very fun film to watch. Again, I'm sorry I couldn't give it any higher than what I gave, but I can't ignore the other stuff that bothered me about this film. But what I can say is, for Deadpool alone, it's still worth the price of admission. This was a fun film. I guarantee those who are big-time fans of Deadpool will not be disappointed. I think you guys will love it a lot more. For average moviegoers, I really don't see you guys really getting into it, especially if you don't know nothing about Deadpool. You're going in with a fresh set of eyes. You probably would like, yeah, I don't get it. I mean, and that's fine. It's not for everybody. It's for a certain group of people. But I will say this: those people, they did support this film, and it showed. Kudos to you guys, because this may actually finally be the final crack that is needed to get more of these darker characters, whether it be in movies or in TV screens or even streaming like Daredevil and Jessica Jones are doing right now. What's your opinion? Like to hear it. Did you like it? Didn't like it? Let me know in the comment section below. Until next time, J77 saying take care, be safe. I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.